Hi you guys, welcome back to the desk corner. Welcome to a new video, and in today's video we are doing a review of my Faber Castell Albrecht Durers, the watercolor pencil set of 60 that I have, and unfortunately, no, I don't have the tin still. I just have this bag from Typo that somehow is able to hold all 60 pencils, okay? This bag is like a magic bag. You'll see what I mean. Look how many pencils. Look. There are so many. So I have the 60 set, as I mentioned to you guys before. These are the only watercolor pencils that I have. I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a review. I can't do a super in-depth review since I don't have any other watercolor pencils to compare them to. So we're just going to talk about these and some of their qualities. And then we will do a swatch chart so you guys can look at all these colors for yourself as well. We get a really nice variety here. These, if you guys don't know, are actually color matched to the Faber Castell Polychromos. However, my pencils are quite a few years old. Because of that, I don't think they're all named the same as the new Polychromos coming out and the new Albrecht Durers, and you can see it's even the old printing as well. So these are the older pencils. So some of these colors might have been changed by name. Besides that though, they haven't added any other new colors or anything like that, so this is fairly accurate of a review. I thought I would show you guys a comparison, or I'll show you guys what the pencils look like. So they are hexagonal shaped. So the barrel is hexagonal shaped, if only that would focus there. This prevents them from rolling. And if I compare them to like a normal Polychromos pencil, this one is round. They look quite similar. Besides that though, they have a silver band instead of a gold band, which is kind of funny. And they look pretty much exactly the same, besides the barrel being a different shape. So I'm glad the barrel's a different shape, or I would never be able to tell which one is which. I think they go for around 100 USD for a 60 set. That is something that can fluctuate and change depending also on where you're buying them from. But I think that's about what I was able to get these for. So obviously these are watercolor pencils. Let's demonstrate one. We'll use Helio Blue Reddish. I'm just using a mixed media sketchbook that I have. So you can apply them like a normal colored pencil, and I'm just going to kind of create a little bit of a gradient here for you guys to see. Then I'm going to go in with my water brush, and we're going to blend that one out. And then as you can see, you can just continue to drag it out. Okay, so that's about as far as I can drag it out. And as you apply water, the pencil lines mostly dissolve. You can kind of move the paint around. You can move it around with your brush and manipulate it. You can take some of the paint off with your brush and use it just like normal paint, normal watercolor paint. But the most common way I see people use these though is just coloring kind of like normal and then adding water. You do have to be careful not to overdo it on the layers beforehand, because as you can see, even just one layer is going to make your colors look really, really bright. So I thought I would show you guys an example piece or two of artwork that I've done with my watercolor pencils so you guys can get a gist of how they actually look in practice. Here's an artwork I did back in 2019, a few years ago, so it's a little old now, but it's still one of my favorites, and I did quite a few layers to achieve this look. And I wanted to get a watercolor look, but more defined, a little bit more defined than what I could do with a brush, because I'm not super talented with a brush, and this is what I ended up with. I'm going to zoom in on some details here. You can see that as I blended out in some of these areas, you can still get that washy watercolor look. And most of my pencil lines, except in areas where I wanted there to be more visible pencil lines, like in the hair, most of the pencil lines are completely gone. And that's the great thing about these pencils, is they are very high quality. You can get rid of your pencil lines, what's the word I'm looking for? Dissolve, maybe? They dissolve very well once you add water to them, so you're not just left with something that looks like you scratched out a mark with your pencil and then added water on top. It doesn't look like that. The paint actually really dissolves nicely once you add water to it, and it might take a couple layers for you to get your desired result. Just to show you a bit of diversity of colors here, this is another piece I did in 2021. This is a beautiful, just colorful sea turtle. You could see how vibrant the colors are and how much they pop once you add water to them. And it's a different style than what I showed you guys before, so you can get a little bit of a more defined result as well. Speaking of color diversity, can we just throw one more in there? This is a sunflower pumpkin I did for autumn in 2021. I love autumn, so I did quite a few autumn related pieces. And this one you can really see those earthy tones and the neutrals and those nice burnt oranges and yellows and how those show up so beautifully in your artwork. So I think that's enough. We're going to do our own swatch chart, and if we have time in this video and artwork, otherwise I'll probably make a separate video doing an artwork. But let's go ahead and get into swatching all 60 colors on a new swatch chart. So this is my old swatch chart. As you could see, the swatches are pretty small, and I wanted to create something new so you could more clearly see the colors. Now for swatching, I decided I didn't want to sacrifice one of my more expensive watercolor papers, and I used a mixed media sheet instead, which was a big mistake because, as you can see, the paint wasn't really able to completely, I guess, dissolve, or the pigment was not bright enough on this paper, and I was kind of disappointed in that. I guess I'm so used to using 100% cotton paper as well. And so when I wasn't able to blend out all the lines on this paper, I was a bit frustrated, but that's okay. So when I sketched this out and labeled everything, I included all the light fastness ratings that were labeled on the pencils. So it turned out that about, I think 26 pencils have a 2-star, 33 I think had a 3-star, and then there was one in the set that had just a 1-star light fastness, which would be the lowest if you are familiar with that star rating system that a lot of companies use. The one that has a 1-star rating in the 60 set is Red Violet, and I'm not sure if there are more like that in the rest of the set because there's actually 120 in all, kind of like 120 polychromos, but I just have the 60 set. So anyways, you guys, light fastness aside, I knew that would be something I had to mention in this video for some of you guys who are interested in that, but that all aside, you can really see how gorgeous these colors are, but also how similar some of them are to each other, which was a little surprising to me when I swatched them out. I realized there were a couple of them that were really similar, like a few of those yellows up there, but that's usually what we get in sets like this. And then as we move on to the reds, I was kind of struggling with some of these on this paper, to be honest, to get them to blend out nicely. So they are going to have a bit of a sketchy look to them on this chart. And I do need to buy some new hot pressed watercolor paper, which I would love to create a swatch chart on eventually. How many swatch chart videos can I do, and how many redos can I do, honestly? It just seems like I'm always cursed when it comes to swatch charts. Something will go wrong. Something always goes wrong. And speaking of that, that deep scarlet lake is actually supposed to be deep scarlet red, and a lot of these are abbreviated a bit since the names are so long, but I put lake and I meant to put red. That's pretty funny. I think it's because it's next to pale geranium lake, and I always make that mistake with that color. And so in some of these I'm skipping ahead just because some of the water leaked onto the empty square next to it, and I didn't want any of the colors to bleed into each other too much. I didn't want that to happen, but this is a little bit of a messy swatch regardless. I hope that you guys are able to see the color diversity that we get here with this set though. And look at that row of reds. Oh my gosh, they're almost all 2-star ratings though, and I think especially the pigment used for the reds and pinks has that issue. You'll see when we move down to some of the blues or greens, the light fastness is going to be a lot better on those ones. But that entire row is just reds and magentas. And then we're moving on to our violets, and as you can see, yeah, it's a little bit hard to get the pigment to go evenly across this paper. It just comes out super uneven, unfortunately. But I didn't feel like redoing the whole swatch chart once I realized this, especially because of how long it actually took me. However, I did scan this swatch chart, and if I'm able to successfully rehash the pictures together, the 2 separate scans, and I can print it out on a hot press paper maybe, then I could do it again. I'm going to try to make it available for download over on my Patreon if I'm able to get the scans to work correctly, so fingers crossed for that. There's that dark indigo. Oh, that one is so messy, but you could see that that is a really deep and yellowish blue. And then Indanthrone Blue next to that on the right is one of my favorites as well. Same with Helio Blue Reddish. That one is gorgeous too. And then we get our ultramarines, which I have a little bit of trouble with sometimes. I don't always know exactly what to do with them. And funny enough, one of the ultramarines comes in like the 12 set, I believe, of Polychromos and Albrecht Durers, and it's kind of funny. I wouldn't expect an ultramarine to come in a 12 set because it's a little bit hard to use in a small set like that, honestly. I think a different blue might have been more suited or more useful, like maybe Indanthrone Blue. I forgot which other blue was actually included in that set, but I think maybe another blue would have been more suitable for that. But anyways, so you could see I'm moving on to the turquoise colors, these blue-greens. They're just so gorgeous, and here we have a row of almost all 3-star light fastness ratings as well for these colors, since we moved on from like our red violet pigments and our pink pigments. And then we will move more into the greens, and I really wanted to slow this down for you guys so you could really see the color variation and how the colors look next to each other. Okay guys, let's talk a little bit about some of the qualities of these pencils as we're swatching. So one thing to keep in mind is that these pencils will perform very differently on different papers, and this one just being like a sketch mixed media paper, they're not going to perform at their best. If you use them on like a cold pressed paper, they're gonna come out really, really vibrant and bright and more textured with way less pencil lines. And if you use them on like a hot pressed high quality cotton paper, the lines are going to dissolve a lot more, but it's not going to look quite as textured as on a cold pressed paper. And then of course, if you use them on a paper like this or something that maybe isn't the best, then you might have trouble getting an even look, and you might have some lines that are showing through. You might feel like you're spreading the paint around on the paper rather than the paint actually like absorbing, and it's very annoying. So keep in mind, when you are using watercolor or watercolor pencils, it's good to invest in a better quality paper because it will save you so much trouble and you'll get a lot more of vibrant results. So I might eventually try and do this on another sheet of paper so you guys could see a difference. In fact, it might be interesting to have a swatch chart that's exactly the same, just on different paper, and you could see just how differently the pencils will perform. Another thing is when you're buying watercolor pencils like this, you don't really need to buy a giant set, and even the 60 set's a little too big for me. You could see a lot of the colors are really similar, and with watercolor pencil, it's easy to create new colors and mix a little bit, so you don't really need to have all those extra colors there. That might be more beneficial for you if you're using normal colored pencils, which are harder to get to blend into new colors because they're dry media. So for watercolor pencils, you could get away with a much smaller set, like maybe a 30, I forgot if it's 32 or 36 that they sell for Faber Castell Albrecht Durers, but I think you could get away with a much smaller set and be just fine. And I know that these are expensive pencils too, so if you're wondering if this is one of those mediums where you can get away with a smaller set, then yes, this is definitely one of those. And I would recommend getting a smaller set of higher quality ones rather than like a big cheaper set, because honestly, some of those cheaper sets do not work well at all. I've had bad experiences with them, especially the Prismacolor one. I don't know if they've improved it by now. Oh, and there's that last row, by the way, of browns and grays. We get 4 grays in this set and a variation of different toned browns as well. And this is the chart as a whole. So here's all the colors that we get in the Albrecht Durer 60 set of watercolor pencils. So all in all, would I recommend this set? Of course, yes, I really would. I love these pencils. I don't find the need to buy any more watercolor pencils. I might just for the channel and comparison's sake eventually, but these pencils leave me satisfied enough, and I feel like I have more than enough colors. I love using these pencils. I think that once you get the hang of it, they are really, really fun to use, and they're definitely a very unique medium. So I would 100% recommend these pencils, but as I said before, you don't need a 60 set. It's actually a lot of colors when it's watercolor pencils, so you could get away with a much smaller set and be fine. Now I'm going to put all the pencils back into this pouch, which miraculously fits them all. And that's going to be it for today's video. Of course, I'm going to post a part 2 actually creating an artwork with these pencils, but the swatching took up so much time in this video. So thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!